So there's a concept called Parkinson's principle that explains this kind of perfectly. It states that work expands to fill the time available for its completion. Work expands the time it's available for its completion. The more time you give something, the longer it takes. Not because it has to, because you allow it to. Hi, and welcome back to the Mind Body Method podcast, and I am your host, Josh Grimm. So, as a coach, I am fortunate enough to have conversations every single day with people who want to improve their lives. Some want to lose weight, some want to build strength, and others simply want to feel better in their own skin. So regardless of the goal, I've noticed a common pattern. Most people focus on the outcome while overlooking the foundation required to achieve it, and that's what we're going to talk about today. So one of the greatest lessons I've learned through my own fitness journey and years of coaching others is that lasting change can be really complicated. We often search for the perfect workout, nutrition plan, strategy, believing the answer lies in doing more. But in reality, the people that achieve the greatest success are often the ones who master the fundamentals before chasing their bigger goals. One of the reasons building a foundation is kind of difficult is because it rarely provides instant gratification. We as humans are naturally drawn towards outcomes. We want to see the scale move. We want visible muscle definition, and we want compliments from our friends, our family, and our coworkers. We want proof that our efforts are working. The challenge is that foundations are largely invisible. Nobody notices when you constantly drink enough water for 30 days or get enough rest. Few people celebrate the fact that you prioritize the sleep for a month or committed to walking your 10,000 steps a day. Those seem very insignificant, but it is true. Those are the fundamentals that create conditions for success. Much like a builder or an architect spends months prepping a job site before a structure starts to take shape, we do the same thing with our bodies. Meaningful change often is going to occur long before the actual actions that we do. This can be where many people start to abandon the process that they set out for. They become discouraged because they are evaluating success through a different lens or the wrong lens. Instead of measuring behaviors, they measure outcomes. And instead of asking whether they showed up for their workout, they ask whether they lost weight, whether they lost inches on their stomach. Instead of asking whether they improve the quality of their nutrition or the way that they feel, their energy levels, they ask whether they look different in the mirror. So while outcomes matter, they are often the lagging indicators. They are the results of habits that have been repeated consistently over time. So focusing exclusively on results can create frustration because results are not always immediately visible, right? So we have to understand that. And focusing on behaviors creates momentum because behaviors are entirely within our control, and our behaviors are going to be what gets the results. So I often tell clients that confidence is not something that you find. Confidence is something you build, and we know that. Every time you follow through on a commitment you make to yourself, you place another brick in your foundation. Every workout completed, every nutrition meal chosen, every walk taken, every extra minute of sleep, even when you didn't feel like it, becomes evidence that you are capable of keeping promises to yourself. And over time, these actions begin to reshape your identity and your habits. You no longer view yourself as someone trying to become healthy. You begin to see yourself as a healthy person. And that distinction between those two things may seem subtle, but it really is a big piece of the puzzle. Identity is often the missing piece in a lot of fitness journeys because people become obsessed with changing their bodies without realizing that they must first change the beliefs that they told themselves about themselves or that they hold themselves in. A person who identifies as inactive will probably battle consistency. A person who identifies as someone who values their health will probably naturally make better decisions. This is why small wins matter so much at the beginning. A 10-minute walk may not dramatically change your physique, but it reinforces the identity of someone who prioritizes movement. Drinking more water during the day may not transform your health overnight, but it does reinforce the identity of someone who takes care of themselves. These seemingly small actions create a powerful build-up effect or a cumulative effect over time. Another misconception is that foundations are only important for beginners, and that's just simply not true. In reality, athletes, entrepreneurs, executives, high performers, all of these men and women I have encountered are often the most committed to the fundamentals. They understand that mastery is not going to happen in complexity. It's found in consistency. And while we search for shortcuts, they will continue doing the same things exceptionally well. They sleep, they habit, they recover, they move. They nourish their bodies, they manage their stress. We understand that success is rarely built through occasional acts of greatness, it's built through repeated acts of discipline. So the same principle extends far beyond fitness. The foundation you build through your health and wellness journey often becomes the foundation in other areas of life. When you learn how to keep commitments to yourself physically, you become more likely to keep commitments professionally and personally. The discipline developed through movement, nutrition, recovery, self-care will probably carry into your business, your relationships, your finances, and your personal growth. You begin to trust yourself more and what you can do, what you're capable of. You're capable of handling adversity because you spent time strengthening the systems that support you. This is probably why I believe fitness is so much more about the aesthetics. The physical results are wonderful, but they are often just a byproduct of something much deeper. Why and what we are building is stronger. To be stronger human beings, we're building someone who understands patience in a world obsessed with speed, someone who values consistency in a culture that celebrates extremes, right? Someone who recognizes that lasting success is rarely created through dynamic changes, but rather through small other actions performed repeatedly over time. When viewed through that sort of lens, building a foundation becomes less about achieving a goal and more about creating a way of life, right? It becomes an ongoing practice of showing up for yourself, regardless of the circumstances. Some days will be better than others. Some seasons of life will make, consistency easier than others. That's normal. The objective is not perfection, it's stability. Because whenever our lives will inevitably become challenging, the strength of your foundation determines how well you are going to get through those challenges. In the end, the people who achieve lasting success are really the ones that start fastest, right? Or even strongest. They're the ones who build the strongest foundation. They understand that meaningful change is not a sprint, but a lifelong process supported by your habits that you choose. They focus on what can be repeated rather than what can be achieved quickly. Because of that, you continue moving toward the goals after others have seemed to quit. Personally speaking, I have gone through years and years and years where I changed my goals, fitness goals, and my health goals. And over the past couple of years, as I get into an older age, I'm turning 47 next year, I have focused on more mobility, stability, and foundations like that. So I've had to change my habits and I've had to change my workouts, and the results have shown. So it is the foundations I built. That's the answer. So next I want to talk about something that I've learned about recently, and it kind of aligns with foundation building, right? And it's called the Parkinson's principle. And let me explain to you why. I first heard about Parkinson's principle while listening to a podcast, and it immediately struck with me. I wanted to learn more about it, not because it was complicated at all, but because it explained something I've been seeing for years in my own fitness and health routine, and also with my clients. It put a name to a pattern that I really couldn't ignore. I wanted to learn more. The more time people give themselves, the less focused and effective they become. The more structure they have, the better they perform. It was one of those concepts that made me kind of step back and rethink how I was approaching not just training, but time as a whole. And since then, it's become something I've applied in my own life when I can, and try to with my clients or try to explain. And it's made a noticeable difference in how I operate and the results that I get. Most people think that their lack of results comes down sometimes to motivation or not having a foundation. And they tell themselves they need to be more disciplined, more focused, more consistent, whatever. But in reality, the issue is sometimes even a little more simple than having a foundation, or it comes down to this first. It's how they're using their time to build a foundation. So there's a concept called Parkinson's principle that explains this kind of perfectly. It states that work expands to fill the time available for its completion. Work expands the time it's available for its completion. The more time you give something, the longer it takes. Not because it has to, because you allow it to. When you apply this to fitness, business, anything, it becomes very clear why you're getting and staying stuck. I see it all the time. Someone blocks off an hour and a half for a workout, but the session is filled with long breaks, distractions, low intensity. I witness this every day. They leave feeling they put in the time, but actually didn't get much done, right? I've been guilty of that myself. Now, take the same person, give them 45 minutes, and everything changes. And I'm not talking about just in the gym. You move with purpose, you stay focused, you train with intention. The quality of the workout goes up even when the time difference goes down. The difference isn't effort, but it's urgency. So one of the simplest ways to create this shift, if you're not working out with a trainer or a coach, is obviously to train with a clock. Set a hard stop before you even start your workout and commit to finishing within that window. You'll naturally move faster with more intention, you'll have shorter rest periods, and prioritize the exercises that actually matter instead of filling time. Now, granted, if you were training for something like a bodybuilding competition, if you're training for certain physique levels that require longer time, then that's a different story. So where most people go wrong is they build their fitness routine around flexibility instead of structure. They tell themselves they'll work out when they have the time. They get those 20 minutes in, eat better when things calm down, or get serious next week. But without clear boundaries, nothing's going to stick. And the same thing happens with nutrition too. When there's no plan, you rely on willpower, and willpower is sometimes unreliable. We are all busy. You eat what's convenient. Portions start to change. Consistency disappears. A more effective approach is to remove the decision-making altogether. Decide your meals ahead of time. Keep your food choices simple, and create repeatable patterns during the week. When you already know what you're eating, you don't have to negotiate with yourself in the moment. Also a time saver. So once you understand Parkinson's principle, you can start using it to your advantage and applying it into all areas of your life. When you put constraints on your time, your execution improves immediately. Your workouts become more efficient because you're working within a defined window. I've noticed for myself, your focus will sharpen. You stop wasting energy on things that don't actually benefit, scrolling on social media. Timing your rest periods instead of guessing also keeps your intensity high, right? That's very important. If you're going to use your phone during your workout, use the timer. Structure your workouts around a set number of exercises forces you to focus on quality over quantity. So even something as simple as preparing your gym clothes or meals the night before removes that decision-making process and makes it easier to follow through the next day. These are not complicated strategies, but when they create they create consistency, and consistency is what's going to drive the results. Pair that with the foundation, you're all set. When your routine is already decided, you remove the need to rely on the motivation and moment and simply have a plan in place. On the other side of this is where most people get stuck. No deadlines, no schedule, no urgency. That's where procrastination kind of comes in. In fitness, that is what drives a cycle of starting strong, falling off, starting over again. It's not a lack of effort, it's a lack of direction. So when everything is open-ended, it's just, it's easy to delay. It's easy to justify skipping a workout or making a poor choice because there's always tomorrow, but tomorrow keeps getting pushed. And one of the most effective ways to break this cycle is by creating accountability outside yourself, whether that's training with a coach, committing to a program, or even setting specific check-ins each week. Having something that holds you to a standard changes how you show up. And the solution isn't to do more, right? It's to be more intentional with the time you already have. So you shorten the window, raise the standard. Commit to specific training times and treat them as a non-negotiable. Simplify your routine so you're not wasting energy on unnecessary decisions and on the execution. When you do all of these things consistently, everything starts to shift. You begin to build discipline that you didn't have before. That doesn't rely on how you feel, but it becomes part of your daily routine. So Parkinson's principle is always at play, whether you realize it or not. The question is whether it's working for you or against you, because when you take control of your time, you take control of your results. So if you like what I had to say today, if you want to learn more about me and my methods, follow the Mind Body Method podcast on social media. Follow me, Josh Grimm _Fit Collective. Email questions at Mind Body Method podcast, and come see us here every Wednesday. Thanks.
Thank you for joining me today on Mind Body Method. This podcast is part of Pride House Media, hosted by me, Josh Grimm, produced and edited by Josh Rosenzweig. Original music composed by Nell Balabin. If you enjoyed this episode, please subscribe wherever you listen to podcasts. And while you're there, leave us a rating and review. It really helps others to discover the show. I'd love to stay connected with you, so join the conversation by following me at joshgrim _fitnet on Instagram and by emailing me at questions@mindbodypodcast.com.